Good morning, goeiemorgen, molweni. Greetings from Cape Town, South Africa. My name is Shelley Aronstam, and I'm a lecturer at the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. As a teacher trainer, I am in the fortunate position to prepare student teachers for multilingual classroom environments. Part of my course curriculum is to expose student teachers to a variety of strategies and activities to support different language uses in their classroom. To give you a little bit of context, South Africa is a multilingual country with 11 official languages, 28 indigenous languages, and 16 immigrant languages. So altogether, there are 44 spoken languages that are taking place on a daily basis. If we look at the context in where I work, that is in the Western Cape. So I'm sure you've all heard of Cape Town, what a beautiful city it is. I'm very fortunate to live there. In the Western Cape, so this is the province, we have 3 languages, which is the LALT, which is the language of learning and teaching. English, Afrikaans, and isiXhosa. Afrikaans comes from the Dutch, and isiXhosa is one of our indigenous languages in this province. When we talk about multilingualism, we refer to the different languages spoken in a particular community, as well as the language competencies in a variety of languages. Moodley stated, imagine you are a teacher in a classroom and you have all these different official languages, indigenous languages, and different dialects all in a single classroom. And that's something I want you to think about today as a pre-service or an in-service teacher. How would you cope? What would you do? How could you accommodate all the learners? So as a teacher, you need to bear in mind that all the learners you have in your classroom are coming in with different attitudes, different interests, different background knowledge, and therefore you as the teacher need to link their teaching to their interests and their experiences as well as their prior knowledge, because we need to remember they're all not on the same level and there's not the same competency. Chambo stated in his research that even though multilingualism is regarded as a linguistic and educational resource, it is also an educational challenge for children who are starting school in a language that is not their mother tongue. Let's talk about the pedagogy, the act of teaching. So what is multilingual pedagogy? It's a way of accommodating cultural and linguistic diversity. However, it is important for teachers in training, which are the student teachers, and teachers in practice, which are those who are already qualified, to know about the language processing when teaching in a multilingual setting. Therefore, learning in a second language is both a cognitive and a social process. Street, in 2001, spoke about the notion of literacy as a social practice. And he believes that children start school with a linguistic and a cultural capital that teachers need to bear in mind, as it can be a very valuable asset. We now come to Vygotsky, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with the theory of social constructivism. Social constructivism indicates the important role of language in learning and cognitive development. Vygotsky also spoke about scaffolding, the ZPD, and the MKO, or the more knowledgeable other. So let's unpack these. If we look at the slide with a picture there is the teacher who's the more knowledgeable other, and then we have two learners. If you look at these learners, the learner on the left is Sotho speaking, whereas the learner on the right is isiXhosa, and she speaks English. The LALT in this classroom, the language of learning and teaching, happens to be English. So the teacher is transferring to the student on the right, who is then translating into Sotho so that the student can understand and do her work. So there's a lot of more knowledgeable others in this picture. The teacher's the more knowledgeable other, as well as the learner on the right. If we look at this slide over here, this is a picture of peer teaching. So in this instance, the student on the right would be the more knowledgeable other. So it is very valuable in a classroom for teachers who do not speak the language to utilize the other learners in the class who are able to assist. So in this slide, the student on the right is explaining to the student on the left who doesn't understand and assisting her in how to partake in the activity and to complete the task. The next slide talks about mediation. So this is an interesting picture because if you see, there is a picture of me. I was actually role-playing this to the students who are in my class at university. But because I am not fluent and do not speak isiXhosa, I brought along my own translator. So there's a lot of trans-languaging going on and code switching. So I have a microphone and I'm working with different students, learners. I am explaining and speaking in English. I am then code switching into isiXhosa, and when I am stuck, I am referring to Mtumzi, who is helping me put it into the language of instruction or the mother tongue for these learners. This is a lovely slide which also depicts mediation. This was taken on International Literacy Day, where we brought in volunteers and parents to come and read to the learners. Over here, the parent is reading a book in English, and the children are listening attentively. There is a child in the back who's reading on her own, so obviously her competence is better. But this parent is asking questions of prediction and getting the children involved in the activity. We now come to a slide on strategies to promote multilingualism in a classroom. Once again, I am sitting in a class. These were grade 3 learners, and my student, the student teachers were in the background, and I was role-playing to them how to do different kinds of activities. There were a lot of labels, there were a lot of different objects, and the children were taking the risk and taking the chance to speak in a language other than their mother tongue. A lovely slide over here about role play. In this slide, these were actually grade R learners, and they were working on the phonic sound oh. So what we did is we came up with a story about Ollie the octopus. And it's about how Ollie walks along and meets a whole lot of different animals. And you can see there are pictures of an ostrich, octopus, osprey, ox. And so what this student teacher did, as well as having all the pictures on the backdrop, she then made masks and puppets. And she got the children to come up and to role play and to act out and to say the words that were in the story. So that was a very interactive lesson where the children were moving, there was a lot of drama going on and a lot of creativity. There are important elements that a teacher needs to take into consideration in a multilingual setting. First one is she needs to motivate the learners and also motivate herself. She needs to ensure that it's a safe environment, that children feel safe to take risks, make mistakes, and speak in a language in which they do not feel that confident. She also needs to ensure that it is a stimulating environment. And how do we have a stimulating environment? We bring in a lot of resources, a lot of different objects, drama, videos, pictures. We then need to ensure that the children are enjoying themselves, because we want them to feel free and to be able to take chances. And very importantly, we need to show that we respect all cultures, that all cultures and all languages are equal, that not one is better than the other. However, there are barriers that take place in the classroom, and this is what we need to be cognizant of. So what are some of the barriers that you may encounter when you are in your own classroom? There is often a lack of multilingual materials. And I know, especially in my country, in South Africa, in this context, there is not enough materials out there, and books and resources and posters and labels in the language of instruction. Also, teachers sometimes lack competence in the different languages, and they might have had poor training. And with this comes the lack of pedagogical approaches, because we are aware that there are different approaches to teaching in a first and a second language, and this can impact negatively on the learners. As a teacher trainer, I need to equip student teachers with strategies on how to work with learners who come from diverse backgrounds when they are in her classroom or his classroom. We need to find innovative ways to teach in these multilingual environments. And I'm going to take you through some kind of ideas that we work on. As a teacher trainer, I need to make students aware of different kinds of classroom projects so that they are utilizing authentic literacy activities that are useful to all the different learners in the classroom. And through these activities, we try and assist the learners in the pronunciation of difficult words, how to recognize these words, and the new vocabulary. So we expose them to different activities so they can interact with all this new vocabulary. When you are designing a teacher education program, which is what I have been involved in, the important things that you need to consider is the content, what you will be teaching, what learning process and pedagogies, and the learning context. And unfortunately in South Africa, the learning contexts in schools are very, very different, depending on where the schools are. So you need to expose the student teachers to diverse and multilingual environments. And we also need to bear in mind the complexities. As I said earlier on, besides the 11 official languages, all the other indigenous languages and the different dialects in this country. So the next few slides, I'm going to show you some different strategies and approaches that I have taken the student teachers through. I'm going to show you some slides on bulletin boards and interest tables, digital stories, which I will show you a clip at the end of this presentation, shared reading with big books, bookmaking, and multilingual labels. So if you look at this slide and we speak about bulletin boards and interest table, this is a table that is in the classroom and that the children participate in. They bring the objects from home, and these are the labels. You can see this is an isiXhosa class. And if I had to say to you, and we were in a face-to-face situation, what do you think the topic is? You can see by the pictures that it is about clothing. The next one we look at, this shows you the bulletin board, which would go behind the interest table. And this one is on the seaside. So what has happened is the learners have been involved. They've been coloring, cutting out, making pictures, drawing, and also writing the different labels, and they have been stuck up. So it's there in the classroom for the children to look at and to participate and to be actively involved in, as well as showing their creativity. The next slide shows another interest table, which is on food. It's actually on fruit and vegetables, and you can see, once again, Children in the classroom developed it, they brought it in, and they brought in the real object. Because we know that children always learn from the concrete to the semi-abstract to the abstract. We also put books on, labels, worksheets, work cards on the table, so children can work from it and can get their answers from the resources that are on the table. So if we look at this slide over here, I would say to you, we are doing something on seasons. What season do you think it is? So by looking at the books, the pictures, the objects, the labels, we can see a tree that has no leaves on it, and you can see the labels on some of the objects that are on the table. This is another isiXhosa example where we have isupu for soup, idiasi in the back which says a jersey, and we've got e-coffee for the kind of coffee that we find here in South Africa. We now come to something called digital stories. What are digital stories? Digital stories is an idea of combining the art of telling stories with a variety of digital multimedia. So that is your audio, your video, and your images. It's a really effective way to engage children in their learning because they're working in a medium that is very meaningful to their lives, and it makes allowances for the different learning styles. Towards the end of this presentation, I will show you a short clip on a digital story that my student teachers went into schools and developed with the learners. The first thing you need is a storyboard. So what is a storyboard? As I explained to the children, a storyboard is like a road map. We have different pictures, and this is where you put your script, and it also links, the picture needs to link to the words that are written under the picture, so it's like your pre-production before you're making a movie. Looking at this slide, we're talking about shared reading and big books. The students in student teachers in my class had to design big books that they could take into the classroom when they were on teaching practice and teach a shared reading lesson. They had to take into consideration the different elements of shared reading. And one of them that we know about is repetition. So if we look at the story, you can see on the page where they've got, I don't understand, and that's where the children join in. And also to make use of onomatopoeic words, for instance, viz or biz, so that the children can be involved in the reading. This is another big book. It is in isiXhosa, and it's about a cat, and you can see the lovely drawings that the children have been involved in and have participated in putting the story together. One of the other elements of shared reading is to bring in rhyming. So if you look at this example, it goes, so when you hear sounds late at night, do not run to go and put on the light. So we would then talk about what are the rhyming words in that story, night and light, and we would ask children to think of others, and this is another way of introducing them to new vocab and getting them used to working with the words in sentences. Okay, this is a slide on bookmaking. It is a process that I take the students, especially the fourth year, my final year students, where we make a variety of books. Books are really expensive in South Africa, and there are a lot of schools that are disadvantaged. So we need to have books in lots of different languages for all the learners to accommodate them. So if you look, this is a matchbox book. We've taken a matchbox, we've covered it, we've then taken cardboard, we've folded it, and this is a bilingual book. It is English and Afrikaans. It says here insects or insecta, and on each page there is a picture and the labels underneath. Here is another example showing you, and these are multilingual with English, Afrikaans, and isiXhosa, and we've gone away from using just a word to now writing sentences. This slide over here shows you multilingual books. So in the classroom, we have taken the topic of animals, and we have written the story in English, in Afrikaans diere, and in isiXhosa, which is Iselwanyana. So it is the exact same story, but it has been written in 3 different languages. So when the children are sitting in the reading corner or on the mat, they don't always have to read in a language that is not their mother tongue. So they would know what the story is about by reading it, and then they could revert to one of the other languages that is the LALT in the classroom. Here is another example of 3 that was taken. We've got touch. In Afrikaans we say gevoel, and in isiXhosa we say ukufata. And on each different page, it is very tactile. They've got something that's rough, smooth, so that they can touch it. So this has been taking you through some of the different activities that I have done with my student teachers that they can implement when they go into the classroom so that they can accommodate all the different learners. Because as we are aware, not everybody learns in the same way on the same day. And it is not a one-size-fits-all. So as a teacher, we have a responsibility in the classroom to accommodate all our learners and to have a multilingual setting. Because as we know, not every child learns in the same way on the same day. We do not have a one-size-fits-all. So we need to make all children feel confident and capable and to value their different cultures and the languages that they speak. Thank you.
Danger zone. The bell rings for the end of school. Thando, Chad and Ryan walk home together. On the way home, they walk past the rubbish dump. Chad sees something shiny.
Let's check it out.
Chad climbs over the fence. Thando looks unsure.
I don't know. My mom told me that's not safe.
Ha! I'm not afraid of anything. I'm Danger Boy.
Well, I guess it could be fun. Thando waits outside while his friends explore the heaps of rubbish.
It's only a can.
After discovering all sorts of junk and waste, the boys leave. They kick the can along the street as they continue to walk home. Chad runs to the opposite side of the road.
Kick to me, Thando.
I don't know. My mom told me that's not safe.
Ha! I'm not afraid of anything. I'm Danger Boy.
Well, I guess it could be fun. Ryan kicks the can into the middle of the road. Just as Chad is about to fetch the can, a car zooms past. The boys feel disappointed and carry on walking home. Around the corner from Thando's house, the boys see a construction site.
Let's check it out.
I don't know. My mom told me that's not safe.
Well, I guess it could be fun. Chad goes inside and balances on a plank.
Ha! I'm not afraid of anything. I'm Danger Boy. Ah!
Just then, Chad slips and falls into the manhole underneath the plank.
Help me!
Thando runs home to fetch his mum. Thando and his mum call a construction worker. They pull Chad out using a rope.
Boys, what were you thinking?
You should know that this is a dangerous place to play. Didn't you read the signs?
I'm sorry. I just thought it would be fun. Well, there are safer places to have fun. I hope you have learnt your lesson.
Don't worry, we did.
Bye.